Welcome back to part 4 on inverse functions. In this video, we need to find the inverse of two different functions. The first one is h of x equals 2x to the fifth plus 1. We'll start with step 1, which says substitute f of x by y. In this case, our f of x is this h of x. And so y will equal the 2x to the fifth plus 1. From there, it says interchange x and y. So now we have x equals 2y to the fifth plus 1. Next, we need to solve for y in terms of x. And notice it says if possible. Occasionally we'll run into some that just are very difficult to solve for y. But in this case it should work. We can subtract 1 from both sides. And that will give us x minus 1 equals 2y to the fifth. Now we're going to divide both sides by 2. Now we have y to the fifth equals x minus 1 over 2. And then we need to take the fifth root of both sides to undo y to the fifth. Once we've undone the exponent, we have y is equal to the fifth root of x minus 1 over 2. And then we can rewrite y equals f inverse of x as our final answer. And in this case, it would be h inverse of x is equal to the fifth root of x minus 1 over 2. Now let's look at part B. In this example, we need to find the inverse function of g of x equals 2x minus 3 over 5x. Our first step will be to substitute f of x by y. In this case, we have a g of x, so we will replace the g of x with y. Next, we will interchange x and y. So I will have x equals 2y minus 3 all over 5y. Next, I need to, if possible, solve the equation for y in terms of x. My first step will be to clear the fraction with 5y in the denominator. When I do that, my 5y's in the numerator and denominator reduce. And I'm left with 5xy equals 2y minus 3. Now I can subtract 2y from both sides. And I have 5xy minus 2y equals negative 3. Factor out the y and you get 5x minus 2 times y equals negative 3. Well, that's very convenient because my next step can be dividing that 5x minus 2 off to the right. I would say that this step right here, this 5xy minus 2y, that's the hardest part of getting these inverse functions because this is like reverse distribution. If you were to multiply this y back in, you'd be exactly where you started. But sometimes it's hard to notice that that's what you need to do. So we'll go ahead and divide both sides by 5x minus 2. And we'll be left with y is equal to negative 3 all over 5x minus 2. Last step here is write y equals f inverse of x. And in our case, we had a g of x, so this will be a g inverse of x is equal to negative 3 over 5x minus 2. Definitely try practicing these. They're a little tricky at first until you start seeing the pattern.